please watch this video until the end. And before your first interviews by phone or in companies with recruiters. This video is about salary and how to negotiate your payment. Based on my experience and on what the course participants and candidates told me, this is a point where everybody fails. The most unpleasant and ticklish one. Going to explain the principle now. What happens? Recruiter calls you and says, I'm looking for someone for this position. Are you familiar with this sphere? Can you work here? You say, yes, I can, I have experience in that. So you continue, you spoke on the phone with the recruiter. Next, he or she asks you the following question. How much money do you want? Or, and what compensation are you willing to discuss? Or what are your salary requirements? Or how much are you paid now? All sorts of questions, some of which is fine to answer. But there are some questions that you should not answer. The question, how much money do you want, hides a secret intent in it that can lead you to failure. Firstly, this is a test of how mercantile you are, whether you only care about money, because a greedy person is heard in a timbre of her or his voice and will immediately rush back and say, you know, I want 250,000 after tax. That's it. At that moment, you understand. I am hooked. This I'm telling you as a researcher, because we also have our own tricks. How we check people for greed, for commercialism, for the desire to use the company for their own purposes. People who only want to take, but not to give. This question always comes with a test. Never say, I want this sum, or these are my expectations, or I'm not going to discuss anything if the payment is below a particular level, this. The last phrase is an indication of wild pride, and that's it. What's the point? You say some words, and behind these words the recruiter sees the qualities of you and your personality. He sees the degree of selfishness that you have as a person, and sees other things, many other things. You do not tell the recruiter, you know, the measure of my ego is 55%, or the measure of my ambition is 87%. You do not say such things directly. You broadcast it through the answer to the question. This is why I ask all the course participants whom I teach how to find a job, never to ask this question. The right answer to the recruiter's question is, you know, let's see whether I can do the work that is required. Or, for example, you know, this is not the main concern for me at that moment. The main thing for me currently is that I have my own idea, my plan, my own goal about what I would like to do, what I would like to give to the organization, to some business. And if I succeed in giving there, then we can discuss the salary and the conditions of doing business. If my idea or plan is not realized and things don't work out in this organization, then what is the point discussing any figures now? The correct question of recruiter would be, how much do you earn now? Or how much did you receive at your last job? You can answer, I received 50,000. of units. I say units because I don't know in which country you are. Yes, some units of money. I receive 50,000 units as base salary. So this percent quarterly bonuses, this percent annual bonuses, you can give it as a percentage. Or you tell them the ratio of the base and bonus parts as a percentage. For example, 70 and 30 or 60 and 40, like this. Usually people know how it is designed for their activities. So you say this, and in total, so much was paid to me per month. Or this is how much per year. Big top managers who have their own figures written in contracts usually answer with annual figures. For example, I get 1 million of units per year, or I get 100 millions per year. Based on this, they will either continue communicating with you or not. But it's even more correct to say, you know, I am somewhere in this range, because it all depends on what I'm going to do. Or in different companies, in different positions, my salaries were approximately in this range, depending on what I did, what I was responsible for. Today I had a candidate for an interview. He worked as a CEO in the former company and received 500,000 per month of units. In his last job, he worked as a project person. This was a part-time employment where he received from 90 to 100.5 thousand. How to evaluate his salary correctly? Here he worked for 1 or 2 days a week, receiving 90,000 units. At the other place, he worked for 3 days, receiving 1,500,000. There he worked for the whole week and received 50,000. How to evaluate? How much does an hour of life cost, an hour of your work? We must make it a rule that the compensation is discussed only at the very end of all negotiations with the company. You tell them what you earned approximately, what was the range of your salaries, and during the job negotiations say, I don't want to discuss compensation right now. I am going for the moment when I reach mutual understanding with these people, so that I would be interested in them and they would be interested in me. If everything works out for us, we reach full resonance, full consonance. Then, in this case, we will agree about the compensation. There are practically no such stories when people are ideally suited to each other and not agree on a salary. At least I have not heard anyone. Even if the candidate is great, but the employers feel that there is something wrong, they will try to lower his or her salary and downgrade him or her in the hope that the candidate refuses. At that moment, the candidate thinks, oh, they want to pay me less my money. How so? This is lower than what I expected. I will fight and demand for more. And he or she feels like there is an internal discord, which is possible. In fact, they do not want to hire him, and that his or her attempt to get more money out of the company through fighting is something that will cover his or her negativity, an element of inconsistency with them. People seriously think that they will be able to cover their displeasure fully with a financial component. This is a psychological process, something that takes place within the process of payment negotiation. Everyone always come to agreement if there is a chemistry between them. There are situations when, for example, we go to a startup business and startups don't pay big money. They pay little, less than in the market, less than in well-promoted large companies. And there, you usually invest more and give more than you get. You need to understand that you agree with startups about a different scheme. You don't negotiate the money that you will receive here and now, but you agree on the growth of this salary, the progressive component. Let's do this. We have such a business, and I will receive this much. I agree. In 3 months, we will grow to this level, and I will receive that much. And in 5 months of half a year, we will grow to that level, and I will receive that much. Then we will grow more, and I will get more. I think this is clear. I am talking about business growth that will lead to increase in wages, and a person agrees on an increase in his salary. It's called talking about the prospects. Do not say, I only need this amount, otherwise I will die without it, I wouldn't survive. Instead of it, say, okay, I am investing more now. But then, when my component grows, I will cover my initial investment in the startup with this large sum. That is the scheme. The most important thing we are going to talk about in the interview is not so much about what we will go and get for it, but the most important and most interesting thing for the company and the candidates is the prospect. For example, okay, you call me to be in charge of marketing. I will come and do it. But what next? I will do this, and then what? Or, I will now build a factory for you and run it, but what next? Well, I will launch it, and you will make me a director of this plant. We will establish production capacity, start production, we will fix everything, and then what? What are our plans, anyway? So that you understand, whatever you do in terms of business will be growing, and you will be growing along with this business. Not only regarding your career, you're putting a new shoulder straps. You were a major, become a lieutenant colonel, and then a general, and even higher, but you grew in terms of output, experience, wisdom, and maturity that each new activity gives you. You grow and do something new all the time, something that you have never done before. It is interesting when you are doing something new all the time and not the same thing for 20 years in a row. Basically, talking about salary as a fixed history is not entirely correct. Because when you say this amount and that's it, you show that you are looking only at here and now, only here at this moment. You are not looking there at the prospect in the future. Nowadays, many interviews come down to what happens today when people talk about salaries. Now you need to do this, there is so much money. The other side say, good, and that's it. People don't ask about the strategy, about where they are going next. This is your task for the interview, because you are conducting the interview, and you must conduct this interview in a way that brings it to the perspective of where are we growing with your organization. All your salary increases will be determined there. This is the second point where you can be caught. If you answer this question showing only interest in here and now, then you are not thinking about prospects. This means that from a position point of view where growth is important, you are not quite the right candidate. When you state your salary here and there, base salary, bonus, annual bonuses, and so on, you need to expect that it's normal story when you come to the next job. You either have the salary that you had before or a small increase. So 10% plus are considered small, 15% plus, this is great, just wonderful. Usually we talk about 10%, but if it is 20% plus, increasing, the increasing of the salary, then it's just magical. If a company offers you 50% increase in your salary, which is done sometimes by large holdings, when they lure people away from other businesses. That is, there is an international company, there are all sorts of grades. Here a person is paid, let's say, 100,000 units per year. New company comes to him or her, an important oligarch, fellow gentleman, free to decide how much money to pay to whom, and says, I can pay you 1 million for the same work. Just come to me to do the job. This is always a dangerous situation. This is also a test. But in this case, the test is not by the oligarch or by the company. It is a test of fate for ambition, for pride. How much you will tear yourself apart from your own importance, for imprudence, for readiness to subscribe to something that you cannot bear, cannot cope with after signing. This is often a setup. When your salary is immediately doubled, you are offered a very responsible role, for example, chief accountant or general director of a plant. And you come, and they have a tax audit, they are shaken by inspectors, they have huge tax debts, they need to appear in court, and so on. This is a huge headache and hassle. They won't tell you all this at the interview. You will find out later when you sign a contract with 50% increase. You will come to the company, and for example, after a month of your work, they will tell you, we have tax problems. And you roll up sleeves, exhale, and plunge into this whirlpool with your head for your million. Of course, you will fulfill your tasks for that million or this crazy increase, but you will strain to the limit your nervous system, damage your health, and then this money will hardly be able to make it up for the losses. Often, the owner makes a decision. I pay him a huge salary. He is a very highly paid person. I will kick him out and take 2 in his place for a smaller salary. Those people are called overpaid candidates. We always treat them cautiously, and as a rule, we try not to take them anyone or show them. I will explain why. First, they are turned by their own sense of self-importance. I get 1 million, I will no longer consider 500,000. And secondly, these people tend to fall into a long job search period, and while they look for a job, whatever huge sums of money they made in their previous job get consumed very quickly. Everything disappears. Therefore, one should never strive for extra money. One should never strive to somehow fall out of the market. Many who chase after money go for huge salaries. Maybe this is due to when you negotiate with the owner. I have examples when a person says, well, I used to receive 50, 100,000 of units. And here I will receive $50,000 per annum. Huge salary. They overpay him. An enormous amount right away. And he gets involved in this story and says, I will still receive the same amount as before, but this extra money that you give me, I will use it to build a temple, or to help homeless children, or I want to build a swimming pool for children, or restore an orphanage, or invest in something else. If you give this amount, this excessive amount that they pay you in excess of your consumption needs, if you give it somewhere, then most likely nothing will strike you later, and then you will quickly find a job and everything will be fine. If you keep it all to yourself and think that from now you are worth so much, then you will be very strongly shaken by the universe later on. I remember in Germany in the years 208, 210, there were a lot of articles and information about it. They had the highest unemployment among the highest paid top managers, who couldn't find a job for a long time due to the fact that they were overpaid. They were not in the market. No one looked at them anywhere. They couldn't poke their heads everywhere at all. They sat at home for too long, and while they were burning their money and were not ready to go down 10 times and start from the very minimum, just to say, at least there was a piece of bread. They were tested by the fate. That is regarding overpayment. No need to settle for underpaid stories either. This is the second extreme. When you come and they say to you, well, you received 100,000 there, but we cannot pay 100,000. We will pay 80,000. The difference is not that big, but it's up to you. You tell yourself, okay, I'm ready to degrade. I worked hard in the previous company, but in this one I don't really want to work hard. I want to relax. I don't want them to disturb me much and let it be 80,000, for example. If you're ready for this option, then you can agree to this downgrade. If you say to yourself, stop, I strive to grow as person. I have grown here, grown there, and I am constantly growing and gaining life experience. I grow through a bunch of mistakes, correct them, and I'm very interested where I am. And I am going to continue to be useful, to do something important. Why exactly do I have to downgrade? I intend to increase my contribution. Then you openly ask the owner a question. Wait, I did this much at the previous enterprise. Do you want me to do less? I want to increase my contribution. If you want me to do less, say from breakfast to lunch, then you need to find someone else. You either need someone who is used to giving effort, knowledge, experience in this volume and investing in this volume, or you need to find a person who is tired of giving and he or she can lower bar a little. And I need to find a story in order to raise my bar, not in terms of money, but in terms of my contribution. The more I give, the more it must be compensated, at least in the same way. You need to be very strict when negotiating your finances, and you don't need to downgrade yourself. Remember that you are the investor of your life. The more you invest in commerce, the more you get. The more you invest your strength, time, your efforts, energy, the more you should be compensated. To be honest, I am not a materialistic person, and I don't really like discussing topics about money, about salaries. But I'm discussing this not because I have my own self-interest or greed, but only because I see how very good candidates burn out every time on completely stupid answers like, I want 250,000. And the person says, I dreamed of getting a job in this company, but gave a stupid answer, and that was it. They immediately threw me away and said that they would contact me, and they never did. This man missed his great chance. So keep that in mind and avoid such mistakes. The owner of the company, the organization, pays you these funds from their own pocket. So it is their responsibility to decide how much they are willing to get out of their pocket and how much they are willing to pay. If you and I go to a company, we will not pay ourselves this money. It is not our pocket, not our responsibility. Why we look into the common pocket of the company and decide on how much of this total income we should take? How are we going to get inside other people's pockets? I don't understand. So every time a person says, I want this much money, there is a feeling that he or she is getting his or her hands into the company's pocket and saying, give me that much. The company gives money from its own pocket and decides for itself. This is the company's responsibility. I am an employee of this company who puts effort into my work. I decide for my efforts, for my responsibility. I am responsible for the contribution. I contribute in the form of work, and they contribute in the form of money. Everyone gives each other something which should be proportionate, and everyone is responsible for himself or herself. Therefore, if recruiters demand from you to answer the question, no, tell me how much you are ready to work for, you can say, my area of responsibility is to decide how much I am willing to invest in the company. This will be the correct answer. If you answer like that, you have passed. But it is so difficult to direct people from these straightforward answers to correct, worthy answers. You decide for your contribution, and they decide how much they are willing to pay for that contribution. Remember, please, about dignity. Thank you. See you.